merci à tous d'être présents pour cette finale régionale du concours Minute Thesis. Donc, c'est organisé par le groupe de Coimbra. Dans le cadre du groupe Coimbra, le groupe Coimbra, c'est un réseau de 41 universités européennes auxquelles participe donc activement Montpellier. Et Montpellier, d'ailleurs, devait accueillir l'année dernière, en juin, l'Assemblée générale du groupe de Coimbra avec ses 41 universités. Et bien sûr, ça n'a pas été possible. Cette année, comme l'année dernière, comme les années précédentes, l'Université de Montpellier participe à ce concours Minute Thesis. Et je remercie fortement les 2 collèges doctoraux de la région Occitanie-Est pour avoir participé, pour organiser ce concours, et notamment les 2 directeurs de ces collèges doctoraux, donc Colin Guimbert et Gilles Subrat, qui ont œuvré pour que cette finale puisse être, cette sélection puisse être réalisée. Alors, ce concours est ouvert à tous les doctorants des universités d'Occitanie-Est, et les collèges doctoraux ont fait un appel à candidature. Cet appel à candidature a permis d'écouter un premier jury de sélection un certain nombre de candidats, d'étudiants, doctorants qui ont fait une première présentation. Et suite à cette présentation, 8 candidats ont été retenus. Et parmi ces 8 candidats, un s'est désisté, mais 7 vont nous présenter aujourd'hui leurs travaux sous la forme d'une forme concrète de 3 minutes, hein, donc très concrète et très simple. Et pendant ce temps, entre la présélection et aujourd'hui, nos candidats ont été formés, ont reçu une formation de la part de 2 coachs que je remercie fortement, donc Patrick Sandra et Lynn Blin, qui, depuis le début, nous accompagnent dans cette formation pour réussir au mieux cette prestation. Alors, pour juger de cette prestation, on a des membres du jury, des jurys qui proviennent des différentes universités de la région et autour de Montpellier. Donc, Patrick Caron, vice-président aux relations internationales de l'Université de Montpellier, Christophe Raymond, qui est directeur des relations internationales de l'Université Paul Valéry, le professeur Anne Mionne, qui est professeur à Montpellier Management, Janine Almani, qui est chargée de communication à l'Université de Perpignan, et puis, pour la première fois, nous avons la lauréate de l'année dernière, Claire Hautefeuille, qui participe à ce jury, donc pour sélectionner les candidats qui vont intervenir, qui vont donner leurs prestations dans les minutes qui viennent. Donc, je pense que on connaît la prestation de 3 minutes en français. Cette prestation aujourd'hui, c'est en anglais, elle est anglophone, elle se situe dans un cadre européen, et les candidats vont intervenir donc en anglais, vont présenter leurs travaux de façon simple en anglais, et un ou une candidat sera sélectionné. Comme seront sélectionnés un ou une candidat de toutes les autres universités européennes partenaires. Et donc, ces différents candidats sélectionnés vont être... leur prestation sera transmise à toutes les universités, et parmi ces prestations, 3 ou 4 seront sélectionnés pour la sélection ultime, le concours ultime qui aura lieu en juin. Malheureusement, il n'aura pas lieu à Prague, puisque dans les conditions actuelles, c'est difficile de le faire en présentiel, mais il était prévu de le faire à Prague, puisque théoriquement, l'Assemblée générale doit avoir lieu à Prague en juin. Mais cette sélection, ce concours, devra être fait en visio. Voilà, donc c'est quelques mots pour l'introduction. Je dois remercier fortement les collèges doctoraux. Je vais remercier particulièrement Anaïs Co, Mohamed Lhomme, qui ont œuvré fortement à la préparation de cette finale régionale, et puis leurs collègues du collège doctoral, Luciana et Lolita, qui se sont investis aussi pour cette prestation. Merci à tous, et donc bonne chance aux différents candidats. C'est pas simple de s'exprimer en anglais dans des travaux que vous êtes en train de mener dans les différents laboratoires. Les thématiques sont très variées, on va le voir avec vos prestations, et donc j'ouvre cette finale, et bonne chance à tous, et le jury va vous écouter et fera la sélection qu'il souhaite, suivant les critères du groupe de Coimbra, pour trouver notre représentant des universités de Montpellier pour la finale européenne. Merci.
Imagine, every second of our life, we are under attack. Billions of viruses and bacteria are constantly trying to make our bodies their home. But our bodies have developed immune cells that act like soldiers and protein sensors to keep us alive in this world filled with germs. So, let me tell you the story of my newly discovered protein, whom I like to call Zorro. A first glimpse of this picture might bring to mind the image of the Earth. In fact, the planet you see here is the nucleus, which is the cell command center. For a long time, Zorro lived here and worked to keep this command center safe from invaders. But he was getting bored with this peaceful life. His dream was to travel to the cytosolic galaxy. Now, think of a cytosolic galaxy as a pool where all cell materials are submerging. One day, while sitting in the nucleus, he came across a job offer that would change his life. Zorro became an astronaut. The next day, he received an alert saying, "Attention, attention, there is a DNA alien heading toward the nucleus." Well, this DNA alien had become released into the cytosolic galaxy by a pathogen. So Zorro, armed with this new information and his sense of adventure, prepared his space shuttle. He left the nucleus and embarked on an explorative journey. Upon his arrival to the cytosolic galaxy, Zorro captured the DNA alien and initiated a protective response to the cell known as inflammation. Indeed, three exciting things are under investigation in my PhD. First, what is the role of the Zorro protein in the cytosolic galaxy? Second, will he be able to get back again to the nucleus after completing his mission? And last but not least, what happens in the nucleus when he's not there patrolling anymore? Now, if we can imagine the cytosolic galaxy being massively invaded by DNA aliens, how would our cells be able to notify our immune system of the danger? This would be impossible without my Zorro DNA sensor. My protein could benefit researchers who work on improving our immunity against pathogens. A DNA sensor, just like my Zorro protein, alerts our immune system that we are under attack and risk falling seriously ill. Yes, just like in the movie, my Zorro will get his revenge.
Today, one of the most promising sources to avoid the impact of climate change and replace fossil fuels is solar energy. Why? Because it's free, abundant, and easy to capture. But due to the variable nature of solar energy, it remains nearly impossible to solely rely on it to supply the world energy demand. One way to tackle this challenge consists of marrying two mature solar technologies into one compact device. Technology one is photovoltaics, or PV. With PV, sunlight is directly converted into low-cost electricity using sand. Technology two is concentrated solar power, or CSP, where mirrors are used to generate heat, which is then used to produce electricity. So, why is this a promising marriage? Well, for PV to massively produce electricity at night or during cloudy days, batteries are needed. And these batteries are very expensive. And that is where CSP comes in. CSP, along with salt, offers the possibility to store heat for days and at a cheap price. In my thesis, I assess the performances of large-scale PV CSP compact systems. In other words, I'm trying to figure out if this couple is going to last. To do that, I have developed a multi-physics model where thermal, electrical, and optical parts are interacting together, providing very encouraging results that clearly show the superiority of PV-CSP compact systems over standalone technologies. Now, that's good news. The honeymoon period is going splendidly. But how will these systems behave under different weather conditions all over the globe? Will this marriage last and be fruitful? My thesis aims to optimize the nature, the geometry, and the size of both solar technologies in order to expand solar electricity beyond daytime. Using the sand of PV and the salt of CSP, soon I will be able to offer cheap, reliable, and dispatchable solar electricity 24 hours a day all over the world.
What's the difference between these two farmers? Both live in the Brazilian Amazon rainforest. Both have a parcel of land that was given to them by the government so they could cultivate and offer a decent life to their families. Both cut down the forest to make room for their crops and to raise their cattle. The difference? One of them received money for conserving his forest, while the other did not. My PhD research investigates the impact of payments for ecosystem services, or PES, on deforestation and on the livelihoods of the farmers. You might be asking yourselves, but why give money to farmers to protect their own forest? Why? Because from the Amazon to Indonesia, each year massive areas of the world's remaining forests are being lost. Deforestation and forest degradation are the second leading cause of global greenhouse gas emissions. In fact, the role of forests in climate change is twofold. They act as both a cause and a solution for the global climate crisis. In fact, changing land use practices in poor countries is much lower than the cost of many of the technical changes that reduce emissions by the same amount in rich countries. That means that paying farmers who live in tropical areas to preserve their forest costs less than all of us switching to electric vehicles or becoming vegetarians. However, despite the popularity of PS in the climate policy arena, evidence about the effectiveness of such a promising mechanism remains scarce. This happens because evaluating these projects is a big methodological challenge. My thesis makes use of innovative methods that combine satellite imagery, field survey data, and statistical models to measure the ecological and economic impacts of such conservation policies. So far, I have evaluated the most well-known Brazilian PS program, and the 350 families who were receiving only $600 per year for 4 years reduced about 40% of deforestation in their land. This means that the project avoided the emissions of more than 300,000 tons of CO2 into the atmosphere, the equivalent to 43,000 vehicles driven in 1 year. Seems a lot, no? But yes, it is possible. And this is no longer a problem of developing the economy in poor countries versus protecting tropical forests. We can actually do both, and at the same time. Thank you.
A lot of objects that surround us are built out of electronic components connected through a wire network. This network is called an electronic circuit. Nowadays, we want all our accessories to run faster and to be more powerful. The consequence of this demand is a rise in the complexity of electronic circuits. To give an example, a cutting-edge microprocessor circuit that is the beating heart of a computer is made out of billions of components. Building up such a circuit is like doing a 50,000-piece puzzle, solving a Rubik's Cube in 2 seconds. We humans are not good at this, but computers are. When it comes to arduous tasks, our huge advantage as humans lies in our ability to simplify things into abstract concepts and draw up plans to communicate with others. The research team I'm working in has developed a process to help engineers to build electronic circuits. This process involves the engineers designing a model of the circuit that is a simplified view of the actual circuit. Next, a computer automatically transforms the circuit, the model, into a real electronic circuit. That's when all the puzzle making happens, and this is why I call it the Rubik's Cube phase. What's at stake here in the Rubik's Cube phase is to get the correct compiling of the circuit. Why is this important? Because all these circuits will end up in planes, trains, cars, medical devices, and so on. When my team developed this process, they were afraid of one thing: to hear on the news of a plane crash, only to realize that the problem had come from the landing system. And the faulty circuit was the result of a failure in the Rubik's Cube phase. So if we want engineers to continue to use this process, can we prove that we will always get the expected circuit out of the Rubik's Cube phase? That's the question my thesis seeks to answer. The Rubik's Cube phase is performed by a computer program. We are now able to apply mathematical reasoning on the program to prove that, in the end, the Rubik's Cube phase has or has not, in fact, built the right circuit. My research discovered that, indeed, in certain cases, the Rubik's Cube phase wasn't building the proper circuit at all. We found out what was wrong and came up with a process that is 100% safe. So the next time you take a plane, you can sit back and relax. It's safe landing from here on in.
If I asked everybody here, which of your 5 senses do you value the most? Almost all of you would tell me sight. And I would agree with you. Indeed, seeing allows us to learn, to socialize, to detect danger, and even to create memories. But have you ever wondered why peeling an onion makes us cry? Well, it is due to the presence of a huge amount of nerve fibers in our cornea, which we can see here in green. The cornea is the outermost layer of your eye, which is, by the way, the most sensitive structure in our whole body. Any disruption of this innervation is a pathology known as neurotrophic keratitis, or NK. NK manifests itself by a decrease in corneal sensitivity and leads to a loss of vision. For the moment, there is no treatment available for this pathology, and that's where my thesis comes in. 5 out of 10,000 individuals are estimated to be suffering from NK. I say estimated because a lot of people with NK are not included in the statistics. For people with NK associated with illnesses such as diabetes, multiple sclerosis, or others not yet identified, the cornea is not even part of their checkup. I am working on different transgenic mice to look into how innervation is set up in the cornea and to determine how its regrowth can be promoted. I am also using tears collecting from patients to understand how tear glands interact with innervation. Indeed, the composition of our tears changes physiologically in order to heal our cornea. Yes, thanks to our tears, we are able to automedicate. Except, that is, when innervation deficiency sets in. My project will open up a multitude of possibilities in order to detect NK earlier, to develop new treatments, and thus to provide better patient care by preserving their sight. Even while coping with a not yet treatable condition, people with NK will at least be able to keep their eyesight. I am part of a team that works from the fundamental to the clinical aspect of the research. This means more concrete perspectives that will benefit not only ophthalmological research, but first and foremost, the patients themselves. I hope my project has managed to put a gleam in your eye.
Only 0.5% of the Earth's surface, but a home to over 4% of its population. 323 million, 5 times the population of France. Even more people depend on the products of agriculture and fisheries from these regions for their daily diets. And that's a problem. The world is changing, we all know that, but it's changing much faster in some areas than in others. River deltas in particular are facing a multitude of challenges. Sea levels and temperatures are rising, rainfall patterns shifting. Human populations in delta cities like Bangladesh are exploding. At the same time, fish populations are plummeting. Biodiversity is on the decline, hydropower on the rise. With all of this happening at the same time, it's difficult to know what the future will hold and how to prepare for it. That's where my thesis comes in. I'm building a computer model that will show the effects of all these changes on river deltas and illustrate their combined impacts. To achieve this, there are 3 steps. First, I had to pick a study area. Looking at all deltas worldwide at the same time might be interesting, but a tad too much work for a 3-year thesis. Instead, I picked a study area in the delta of the Mekong, Southeast Asia's largest river. Known as the rice bowl of the region, it's home to 22 million people and part of the largest system of inland fisheries in the world. Second, I had to build and train a computer model. This involves setting up a system of mathematical equations that links inputs such as water levels and temperatures to outputs such as the amount of fish caught and the size of the rice harvest. For this training, I used a variety of data. I analyzed a series of satellite images, I dug through heaps of measurements of water levels and temperatures, and I went to Cambodia and spent a few months wading through rice paddies, interviewing farmers. Now, training a model may sound abstract, but all it means is that I'm modifying my model slightly on the basis of the data that I have until it is capable of reproducing the current situation. Once it has passed this test, I can move on to step 3, modifying the inputs and seeing how the outputs change. For example, I can ask the model what will happen if temperatures rise by 3 degrees, sea levels rise by 2 meters, and 3 more hydropower dams are built upstream. With this information, local stakeholders can make informed decisions so that delta communities can continue to prosper and the future look a little less uncertain.
Recently, going to the field, discussing with farmers, and meeting institutional actors have made me realize this. Nature is like a big research laboratory, and within it, there are interesting patterns to explore. In some cases, we don't need sophisticated or civil engineering solutions if natural solutions can do the work. I'll give you a simple example. Planting trees is an ecological solution. We can use it instead of building walls. But don't you think that climate change, water scarcity, and other challenges may be the result of our disconnection from nature? Well, I decided to reconnect with my study area, which is located in the northwest of Morocco. It's a lowland. The area has a low topography. In dry seasons, it can be cultivated and can be used for grazing cattle. But because of its bowl-like topography, it is subject to water submersion by rainwater and overflowing rivers. Consequently, it can lead to a loss of the agricultural production. But wait, at the same time, water submersion is positive. It creates habitat for birds and fish. Adding to that, these lowlands store water and thus protect homes and lives from floods. So as you can see, this water dynamic of these low areas is behind so many benefits, but at different periods of time. I am using a set of indicators to estimate these benefits, like agricultural production, numbers of animals sheltered, as well as the capacity of flood storage. I am also studying the synergies and the conflicts between these benefits. Quantifying them will enable us to share this valuable knowledge with the local authorities and the local population. We believe that it will help them to support their decision for planning and water management. With my research group, we aim to organize multi-stakeholders workshops. We want to gather farmers, policymakers, and environmental organizations. We want to understand their needs and their priorities, and therefore, together, contribute to find an ecological compromising solution to protect these low areas and to enhance their benefits. To summarize, this is not just a simple thesis, it's more of a concept we deeply embrace. We believe that solutions are hidden in nature, and it is time to use natural patterns to solve environmental challenges. With my research group and the implicated actors, we look at how to encourage actions able to cope with nature and harness its power by letting it do what it is best at it, protecting human lives and supporting biodiversity.